Right, good afternoon and welcome to members of the public, officers and members of the committee to the South Kesteven District Planning Committee on the 13th of June 2024. I'm Councillor Penny Milnes, the Vice Chairman of Planning, and I will be chairing this meeting today. On the housekeeping front, I am not aware of any fire drill taking place today, so if the alarm does sound, then please vacate the building via the stairs. The meeting place is outside at the front. Please can everybody ensure that they have turned their phones off or to silent? Thank you. Please be aware that this meeting is being recorded and also being live streamed by a public eye on the South Kesteven website. Could you ensure that your microphones are turned off when not speaking? We have with us today Assistant Director of Planning Emma Whittaker, Development Management and Enforcement Manager Phil Jordan, Principal Planning Officer Adam Murray, Planning Officer Sarah Hullett. We will have the Conservation Officer Ariana Bushman, Legal Services Martha Rees, who is joining us online today, Democratic Services Amy Pride, and the Cabinet Member for Planning, Councillor Phil Dilks. Message to the public speakers and ward councillors. Please be aware that you have 3 minutes to speak, and you will be advised when you have 30 seconds left. You may finish your sentence, but not another paragraph. Emma, could you please read out the list of speakers on each item, please?
Thank you very much. So in relation to agenda item 4, which is the planning application for 175 dwellings and associated access infrastructure, open space landscaping community facility at Low Road in Barrowby, we have the applicant represented by George Wilkinson, and Georgina McRae will be here to answer some technical questions if there are any. In relation to agenda item 5, which is the application S230299 for the erection of 67 dwellings at Readings Road and Owen Way in Barrowby. We've got Andrew for the applicant, with Ben Purdy also available for technical questions should there be any. In relation to item number 6 on the agenda, S240413, which is the conversion and extension of barns to form 2 dwellings at Chestnuts Farm in Sapperton, we've got Mike Sibthorpe, who's the agent for that application. And then we've got no speakers for the last item, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. Then we'll move on to agenda item 1. Apologies for absence, please, Amy.
Thank you. We've just received apologies from Councillors Charmaine Morgan. Thank you.
Item 2, does anybody have any disclosures of interest for consideration? If you believe you have at any point in the meeting, then please let us know. No? That's fine. Item 3, minutes of the meeting held on the 16th of May 2024. Is everybody been able to read those minutes? Are they happy with those minutes and the accuracy of them? Yes? Would somebody like to propose the minutes, please? Councillor Harrison. And a seconder, please. Councillor Fellows. Can we vote then, please? All those for? Those against? Abstentions, please. So we will move now on to the main agenda items. So agenda item number 4, application number S232175, which is the hybrid planning application for the erection of 175 dwellings with associated access, infrastructure, open space and landscaping as part of the full application, and community facility as an outline element of this application, land at Low Road, Barrowby. Sorry, if I go over to the Principal Planning Officer, Adam Murray, to give our presentation. Thank you, Adam.
Thank you, Chair. So as you mentioned, this first application is a hybrid plan application for the erection of 175 dwellings with associated access, infrastructure, open space and landscaping, which has been submitted in full, and for the use of land as a community facility, which has been submitted in outline. And the site address is Low Road, Barrowby, and the application has been referred to committee as it's a major residential development that requires a Section 106 agreement to secure financial contributions. So the site itself is 7.9 hectares of land positioned between Low Road and Readings Road, located as south-east of the main built-up area of Barrowby. The site itself forms a single field of arable land that rises gently from south to north, and the site forms part of the Low Road Barrowby allocation site that is allocated within the adopted local plan. So as you can see, members, the image on the screen shows you the local plan allocation, and it's the southern field of that site that is currently part of the current application that is being brought forward by Allison Holmes. Current application scheme seeks full planning permission for 175 dwellings, not 250. That's inaccurately referenced within paragraph 2.4 of the committee report, and also includes an outline element for a new community facility. Vehicular access to the site is to be taken from Low Road, and 4 points of pedestrian and cycle access would be provided along the northern boundary to connect into the adjacent site, which is being brought forward by Persimmon. The scheme itself would have two-storey dwellings throughout and includes a mix of different dwelling types which have been included within your officer report. In terms of the assessment of the scheme as a whole, it's set out within full within your officer report. As mentioned, the site is allocated within the adopted local plan. There are some minor conflicts with the allocation policy, which includes the conflict brought about by the inclusion of the community hall within the site, which hasn't been identified as part of the allocation, and a minor conflict with the master plan with the relocation of the open space. In both situations, though, it's the officer assessment that these are benefits and betterments compared to the policy allocation and the master plan, and therefore the scheme accords with the allocation policy and is acceptable in principle. In terms of the design quality and the impact on the character of the area, it's been subject to extensive engagement through design pad from the formulation of the master plan, which dictates the development of the site, and as part of the current detailed application that we have in front of us. The urban design officer is supportive of the scheme, and it's the officer assessment that is a high quality design scheme that would integrate within the surrounding area. And then also important to note that there are quite a significant amount of Section 106 contributions coming forward as part of this development, which has been updated as part of your late items paper. So important to note, particularly from your late items paper, that the Low Road Footway Cycleway contribution requested by Lincolnshire County Council, that now is included within the Section 106 heads of terms, because we now are satisfied we have sufficient information to support that. And also, in terms of bus services, there is a financial contribution towards providing a year-long bus pass to each dwelling within the development. One thing to particularly draw members' attention to is the community facility element of the application. As I say, that's submitted in outline, and the heads of terms for the Section 106 have been drafted on the basis of the applicant providing a financial contribution proportionate to the amount of development on the site. In the event that the parish council do elect to bring forward a community facility on the land set aside as part of the current application, then the financial sum calculated would be reduced by the value of providing that land as a service site. However, if the parish council do elect to go with the alternative sites that they are considering, then that full cash contribution would be payable by the applicant towards delivering a facility on the alternative sites that the parish council are considering. In terms of that overall planning balance, then, scheme would provide 175 dwellings, and that's a significant public benefit. 30% affordable housing on site, again, that's a significant public benefit, and there are a number of economic benefits associated with the scheme. Invariably, there would be an impact in terms of the character from the change from an undeveloped agricultural site to a residential housing estate. But on the whole, Ofsted assessment is that the public benefits outweigh the harm it accords with the development plan as a whole, and there are no material considerations to indicate that permission should be withheld. So therefore, the recommendation to committee is to authorise the Assistant Director to grant planning permission, subject to conditions and subject to the heads of terms within your late items paper. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Adam. If we could call forward for the applicant, George Wilkinson and Georgina McRae. You here? Is Georgina here? Oh, yes, thank you. Thank you. You have 3 minutes to speak and you will be given a 30-second warning. Thank you.
Good afternoon, members. I'm George Wilkinson, a planner from Allison Homes, and I'm here as applicant and developer to support this application for 175 houses at Low Road, Barrowby. The site is part of a wider allocation in the South Kesteven local plan for 270 houses and has had extensive master planning work done with the other landowners, Platform and Persimmon. The master plan was approved in September and has formed the design principles of the scheme, including cycle and pedestrian links, connected areas of open spaces and access points. The site will deliver 175 houses, including 30% affordable housing, making a notable contribution to the housing land supply and affordable provision in South Kesteven. The site will also deliver a biodiversity net gain and the provision of bird and bat boxes around the site, with Condition 8 securing this detail. Prior to and during the application, Allison Homes has undergone consultation with the local community, with the Parish Council identifying a need for the community facility in 2022, and public consultation in December 2022 also supporting its inclusion into the scheme. We have met several times with the Parish Council to update and involve them in the design of the scheme, and this is reflected in their support throughout the application. The site has undergone extensive design consultation with the local authority's urban designer during planning and design meeting in January 2024. With the scheme in front of you today, building on the design principles set in the master plan, including additional tree planting in the eastern open space, outward spacing properties on open spaces, and the increased accessibility around the site. As outlined in the committee report, the development will secure policy-compliant affordable housing provision at 30%, along with the requested financial contributions for highways, healthcare, sports facilities improvement, and a contribution towards a new village hall in Barrowby, with the site also providing 0.28 hectares of land to the Parish Council for the potential development of a village hall. The scheme will provide energy-efficient homes, with all homes achieving an EPC rating of a B or higher, and every house will also have an electric charging point and solar panels to provide sustainable homes. The detail of this has been secured by Condition 11. Allison Homes has worked with all consultees in addressing all concerns, and the proposal in front of you today has no objections raised by statutory consultees and has local support from the Parish Council. The proposals represent a high-quality development, and we hope that the members are able to support the officer's recommendations.
30 seconds.
Finally, I would like to thank Adam for his comprehensive report and his commitment to this application. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Do we have any questions to the applicant, please? No? I think you've probably answered. Oh, no, just a moment. Councillor Crawford, please.
It might be a bit of a technical one. On the pollution control, it says that a desk study identified no potential contamination. However, it was noted that basic radon protection measures would be required in future developments. What kind of protection would you be putting in to protect from radon? Sorry, thank you.
Yeah, I think the detail is secured by condition for the further ground investigation works. The radon protection will come through by the foundation designs, so they'll be built into the properties from commencement. That's correct, yeah. No problem.
Thank you. Any other questions, please? No? Well, thank you very much indeed. Thank you. So if we move on, do we have any questions to our presenting officer, Count Adam Murray? Councillor Paul Wood.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Adam, it's just I notice it's an hybrid planning application. Did you advise the applicant to put in an hybrid? Because it's obviously split. Does that mean, obviously it's up for consideration, just hypothetically, does that mean we could approve one and not the other? Or can we split it or not?
No, so it's being put in as a singular planning application. So yeah, as you say, it's a hybrid planning application. Now, to give the context for it, it's been put in that way because the full detailed element of the application relates to the actual residential built form, which is what Alison Homes as the developer will build out. The outline application secures the land for a community facility on the basis that it will ultimately be the parish council that will bring that forward. So details relating to the actual design, size of that building, etc., that will be down to the parish council and what they want. So although you actually grant two separate elements of a permission, an outline element and a full detailed element, it is still one singular planning application.
Thank you. Councillor Tim Harrison.
Thank you, Chair. Just a query that I've got really. It's the highways bus services. We've got the money for 175,000. Yeah. And it says on there a 3-year-long pass to each dwelling. 175 dwellings. That's putting the passes at £1,000 a piece. 365 quid.
Apologies, Councillor House, I'm not quite sure what. So, in terms of.
And the cost of the pass is £365. What's happening with the rest of that money?
So the information we've been given by the County Council is that the cost of providing a bus pass per dwelling is £1,000 per dwelling, which is where that figure's come from. That covers not only actually LCC providing the pass, but it's recovering the cost then from the bus operators and how they would have to fund it as well. So whether they potentially subsidising it something or anything like that as well. So it's £1,000 cost per dwelling, which is what is ultimately what would be payable by LCC.
Thanks. That figure's come from LCC then.
Any more questions from anybody to Adam? No? Councillor David Bellamy.
Just something minor. If the parish council don't take up the offer of the land, and then I think we said at the site visit there possibly more houses being built on that particular part of the west end of the plot, does that mean that the S106 would be adjusted as well for the extra houses?
So as you can appreciate, Councillor Bellamy, ultimately we can't predict what would happen to that land if it wasn't brought forward as a community facility. You would anticipate the likelihood is it would probably form a smaller parcel, and we'd have to take into account at that point in time. But yeah, the likelihood is that if we had an application for additional housing, similar to the same way that we've looked at the Uffington Road in Stamford allocation with that one, where there has been subsequent smaller development, we've looked at the implication of it as an allocation as a whole, and where necessary we've secured additional contributions. But again, that would be a matter to determine at a future application if that ever came forward.
Thank you. Councillor Gloria Johnson.
Thank you, Adam. It's got lots of soft landscaping within this. Who will be maintaining that and looking after that, please? And the trees that's being planted. Whereas I'm all for trees being planted all over the place, but they do need maintenance. And I'd like to think that the trees that's being planted within the area are the ones that don't have the roots spreading to disrupt the foundations of the properties in later life. Thank you.
Yeah, so we have conditions in place in terms of landscape management plans. the expectation is it would be managed by a private management company that would fall under the control of the residents as opposed to being the parish council that would manage it. But the actual details in terms of, excuse me, how the planting would be undertaken, the management for the different areas, because you'll appreciate the different type of species planting, etc., that needs different management regimes. That's all covered under that landscape management plan condition that we've got included.
Thank you. Have I any more questions to Adam, please? Councillor.
Thank you. I'm a bit, of course, my concern is with regard to the, under SB1, it says paragraph 7.12, the local plan doesn't set out a policy requirement for all dwellings to be fitted with electric vehicle charging points and solar panels. Instead, the requirement for development to manufacture maximum the use of renewable energy. So I just wondered, how is the, if only, is it odd houses that are going to have the EV charging points and also the solar panels, or is that most of them will have it? But how are we mitigating the climate change in it?
So that's covered by your conditions, Councillor Bisnelson. So it's conditional 11, which requires the details of that to be submitted. So that will include details of which properties have EV charging points, etc. The point made within the officer report about that you just referenced there is, obviously we encourage properties to have solar panels, we encourage them to have EV charging points, etc. But there's an appreciation that they are not necessarily the pure only ways of mitigating your climate change impact. There could be alternative ways to do that. So we don't specify that properties have to have solar panels, etc. It is all about guiding developers towards ensuring that they're mitigating their impact through construction, through minimising the opportunities for encouraging low carbon travel, etc. But we don't say that it has to be done through specific measures, because there are multiple different ways dependent on each individual site. Some measures may be more appropriate than others, but the overall obligation, that's covered by the planning condition, Councillor.
Thank you very much for that. But I think if we can have a mutually agreed between the developer and yourself to have that, it will obviate all these other further conditioning if the developer willingly, enter into to do that and cost it up. Probably might be far better than us to be raising it all the time.
We certainly encourage it through pre-application pre-application process, Council. We do raise things such as drawing attention to that policy, but as I say, the condition that we have in place is more than sufficient to secure that detail as well, so it is still through engagement with ourselves.
Thank you. Do we have any more questions for Adam, please? Councillor Patsy Ellis.
Thank you, Chair. It's with reference to the active travel plan and the cycle walkway that's going to be joining up Barrowby to Grantham. Well, that's only on one side of the carriageway. Is that correct?
So the detail of that scheme ultimately will be controlled by the Lincolnshire County Council. The financial contributions that we have requested are on the basis of a dedicated footway, cycleway link on a single side of the carriageway. Yes, Councillor Ellis, but ultimately the actual technical detail is something for the County Council as the Highways Authority. They will be responsible for those works.
Thank you. Anybody else? Councillor.
Yeah, thank you, Adam. Thank you, Madam Chairman. I know we discussed about speeding along the highway. Is there any part that SKDC to recommend to LCC about speed limits, etc.? Because I know that will put extra business and speed on that road properly.
Ultimately, that's something that sits slightly outside of the actual planning application process. So issues of speeding or existing issues of speeding has been mentioned by residents within the village. Ultimately, that's a matter of law enforcement, that sort of thing. The actual process, though, for extending a speed limit so further out from the village, etc., that's something that would follow as part of the technical approval process with the County Council after we consider the planning application. So what you may find quite often is that in terms of making the actual legal order to move the speed limit, having a plan and permission in place and having a new access being created such as this, that gives the county council the sufficient legislation and almost pushes them to then look at the speed limit after that.
Thank you. Anybody else? No? Thank you, Adam, for that. Now, I'm going to suggest that we've had some excellent answers and a report from Adam. We've all asked lots of questions. When we move into debate, I'm going to suggest that we take 3 major topics one at a time, just to speed things along a bit. I'm going to suggest that we start with the issue of the outline element, the community land. This is a conflict with the master plan and the allocation. However, it does have positive impacts. The parish council are very positive about it, gives them a second option for a village hall. And the other one is the open space and connectivity, which again doesn't quite concur, but the positive outcome is that it joins up with the adjoining site, which we will consider after this application. And so there's really positive reasons for those changes. And the third one I'm going to suggest is the active travel, the route into Grantham, that we have now agreed the Section 106 terms for. So I thought if we could start with those, do them one at a time in debate, try not to get too confused, and then maybe that'll speed things along if that's okay. So if we can start, please, then with the community use land. Councillor Helen Crawford.
If this is something that the parish council would like and the residents would like, because obviously they probably have suggested it to the parish council, I would probably sooner see a community centre built there than additional housing, because the community centre would benefit the whole of the village. It's in more of a central location. For me, I wouldn't have an issue with granting outline planning permission.
Yes, the idea is that the parish council have 2 sites. They've got one in the village, which is proving slightly difficult, and they would have an option of this one. So, yes, there is a positive benefit to that. Okay, well, that was easy, wasn't it? So, if we move on to the second one. Oh, Councillor David Bellamy.
I suppose the other point is that backing up what Councillor Crawford said, there's probably more scope for parking on that particular site than there is on the other one. I know the other end of the village is quite narrow and congested, and there's parked cars on the side of the road, and like I say, so I totally agree with what she said, that realistically, that you'd have thought that would be the preferential site. So no, I think it's good that it's in there. So it's a positive.
Yes, it is a positive, and it's a pity that the parish council aren't here to give that positive vibe to us, but they are most welcoming of it, and it gives them the choice of the 2 sites. So it is up to them at the end of the day which one they choose. If they don't choose this site, then, as Adam has explained, there are different ways that the contribution will be made. Thank you. So if we move on to the open space changes and connectivity, please. Councillor David Bellamy.
Well, actually, I think it's better than the original master plan. I think it's great that that there's a bigger picture sort of come out of this. And again, I think that's a definite positive.
Yeah.
And I wish that a lot of, when these smaller parcels come, when the applications come to officers, or whether they come to committee or what have you, like I say, I wish that this sort of thing would be taken into consideration more on the sort of district-wide, so that we consider the next parcel of land that might come forward when we're considering this particular one, when it's probably obvious that it will happen in time. Like I say, so the fact that this has been joined up together, I think it's a definite positive. So, and it's sort of brought the two applications and the 2 plots in together.
Yes, absolutely. And I know you have concerns about other sites, and it's something the officers, I'm sure, will bear in mind for future master plans or future, even if it's a single site, absolutely. Anybody else like to? Sarah Trotter, Councillor Sarah Trotter.
Yeah, probably echo what Councillor Bellamy said. I always feel quite sad when I see loss of agricultural land, but I went on the site visit and quite clearly lots of things have been taken into consideration, particularly maintaining the lovely hedgerows and breaking it up with green space. And just the very fact, I think, that the parish council seemed to be very supportive, then, yeah, it was a breath of fresh air for me. So thank you. Thank you, Adam.
Yes, thank you. Refreshing is another word for it. But, yes, very good. Anybody else? No? So the third issue which I've suggested we talk about is the active travel footpath cycle route down into Grantham, which is no longer a problem. We have managed to get a Section 106 agreement on that. It's a very good option. And if we could just debate that slightly, if you feel you've got comments to make. Councillor David Bellamy.
I think, well, it's obviously a good thing, but also I think at one of the previous meetings we had regards the one of the bigger parcels of land on the outskirts of Grantham on Barrowby Road, one of the things that the parish council did bring up was connectivity. So, yeah, and in particular on the A52 and on the crossing of the A1 bridge and stuff like that, like I say, where it's more difficult. But this actually does do the same thing via a different route and takes you straight pretty much into the heart of town. So, no, I think it's good. And, like I say, it probably helps to solve the problem at the other end of the village as well. So, because people will be able to use this route, you know, no matter which side of the village they live in. So.
Yes, thank you for that. Anybody else like to debate this? Councillor Patsy Ellis.
Hi, thanks. Obviously, I welcome this because also within the site itself, you have, separate from the carriageways, you have pedestrian and cycle paths, so it all kind of joins up nicely together. However, the only, because I've not been privy to previous planning meetings, where we do cross over the A1, there's a bridge there. What happens? Does everything just stop? And I don't know how it works.
So I think, as Councillor Bellamy's alluded to, a lot of the debate previously with the parish council for the rectory farm allocations has been about the parish council's concern about people travelling along the A52 and then having to cross the A52 to get to the facilities within Poplar Farm and Rectory Farm, the developments there. What this option ultimately will do will provide a link from, rather than residents having to travel north out of the village along the A52, it will bring them along Low Road and connecting into Dysart Road and provides them with a more direct route into Grantham where there are the facilities there for them without then having to cross over the A52 in any way. Probably worth always for members to bear in mind as well that in terms of that link then to Rectory Farm and the facilities nearby up there, we've obviously got proposals with development. Say we've got the countryside properties development to the south of the A52 on that part of Barrowby. You've got development schemes taking place to the north of Dysart Road as well. So what you will likely have ultimately in the future with those developments coming forward is an element of connectivity through those estates as well. So as officers, it's certainly something that we're bearing in mind when we're talking to these developers for the different parcels, is looking at that interconnectivity between Barrowby and things within Rectory Farm, things within Grantham Town Centre, and try and facilitate connectivity throughout the different development parcels.
Thank you. Emma, would you like to speak?
Thank you. I just wanted to make councillors aware that there's also the Grantham Transport Strategy, which was adopted. It's an LCC document, Lincolnshire County Council document that we've endorsed, dating back to December 2022, and that provides the higher framework for a lot of the that sort of wider transport strategy issue of cycleway, footway, bus routes, all of those other bits that allow the council, both councils, so through us through planning, but also the county as highways authority, to I suppose to come up with further projects that really provide that detail. So we do have that overarching strategy document available, and this is one of those things that builds on that. Thank you.
Councillor Patsley Ellis.
Sorry, but if you do go down the low road, you do have to cross a bridge over the A1. So you obviously, it's quite narrow. There's just two carriageways, north, south, east, west, whatever. So does your cycle pathway have to stop there? How's it going to work?
As I think I mentioned earlier, Councillor Ellis, that's ultimately where LCC, when they're doing the detailed technical design, they will factor in how they want that connection to be made. Ultimately, at this point in time, for the consideration of the applications, we've looked at high level what a scheme for a dedicated footway cycleway to connect the site into Dysart Road, what the cost of that would look like. But as I say, ultimately the actual detailed technical design, that's something that the County Council will do at a later stage when they're looking to implement the works.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to speak in debate? Councillor Helen Crawford.
Thank you. Going on to a slightly different subject. I do get tired of the ecological impact assessments being taken place in winter when we don't have the migratory birds and all the rest of it here. But having said that, the applicant's agent stated there's going to be EV chargers, solar panels, there's going to be a biodiversity net gain, there's going to be bird and bat boxes, hedgehog highways, widening of the footpath, additional landscaping and planting. They're keeping the original hedging, most of it anyway. The parish council is happy for this. There's going to be good connectivity. It's nice to see an application that is so positive for a change. We've got more pros than cons, I believe, on this one, which is very refreshing. For me, I would be happy to propose this with the outlining for the community centre as well. Thank you.
Right, thank you. And Councillor David Bellamy is willing to second that. Do we have any more speakers in debate? Councillor Tim Harrison.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to pick up on what Councillor Ellis has said. That I have got concerns with that we're passing this with this cycleway, and as I agree with Councillor Ellis, what happens then in a year's time when LCC say, well, we can't do that, we can't deliver that? What happens then? Because we've then passed this with that cycleway, and then if LCC say they can't deliver it, we're left without the cycleway. So can somebody tell me, what's the issues on that? Because looking at this, I really struggle to see how they're going to do it. But
ultimately, it goes down as part of a legal obligation, and the applicants will be paying their financial contribution to making sure that scheme comes forward. Now, we have pressed very hard with the County Council in terms of these contributions, not only in terms of whether the amounts are proportionate to the scheme, but ultimately what project it's looking to deliver and whether that's an actual feasible, deliverable project. Now, as I say, the reason we have included them within the late items paper and those contributions is because the County Council have assured to us that there is a project that they have in mind that they can deliver, and that the high level cost that they've got for that project is what has led to these contributions. So I can assure you, Council, we have, as officers, really pushed the County Council to make sure that we have the confidence that those schemes can come forward.
yeah, thanks for that. I do agree you've done all your work. I haven't got an issue with that. But my query is what happens when they turn around and say, which they've done before, sorry, we can't do it. What happens then with
Emma? I think Emma would like to answer.
Thank you. Ultimately, it will be a matter for the county as the Highways Authority to deliver the works. They've asked for the contribution. We have to put some faith that they will do that. They want the works. They recognise they've got a transport strategy in place. When they ask for these contributions, and say we have pushed on this because initially we didn't get enough detail to satisfy ourselves that this was compliant with the SIL regulations. They have provided that detail about what that project would look like. They will do some initial investigation. They won't just say, I want some money towards, let's finger in the air and see what it's like. You know, they will be satisfied that there will be a solution there. It's just down to the technical designs as to what that solution will be. So I do think we need to trust that this will happen and secure it through the legal agreement as we do normally. And of course, we can raise it separately if there's delays and deal with that through the Transport Board that we go to and split with Cathy. On a separate matter, Chairman, if I can just clarify, there were some updates to the heads of terms in the legal agreement in the late items paper. So can I just clarify that the recommendation to that the motion to approve that was proposed and seconded, that was in accordance with the updated recommendation in the late items paper?
Yes, it was, Madam Chairman.
Right, thank you for that. If anybody's any other issues to raise or debate, I believe Councillor Pam Bird.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Clearly, lots of good things and much to recommend. There's just a couple of very small issues I'd just like to raise. One is that there's obviously quite a high reliance on tandem parking across the site. And with these lovely verges with the trees, I just wonder, is there any way to create some kind of safeguarding for additional cars, visitor cars, that might end up using the grass verges for parking, because there's very little spare parking capacity within the site. So that's one of my, just a query really.
Yeah, so parking is something that we go into quite extensively when we look at things through the design pad process. So that design pad process includes our urban design officer. It also includes the county council as the Highways Authority and Flood Authority. And I can definitely say with that as well, Councillor Bird, there has been a lot of conversation about whether the amount of parking is appropriate, whether they're satisfied as the Highways Authority that parking arrangement is sufficient, because ultimately, as you say, we have a very well-designed scheme here that includes tree-lined streets, includes swales, etc. The last thing that we want as officers is to not provide sufficient parking, so that ultimately you have people trying to park where the swales are. That's not good design. That's not what we're looking to achieve. We've consulted with the Highways Authority. They are satisfied that the parking, that split of tandem parking, side-by-side parking, they're comfortable with the parking that has been provided.
Thank you. Obviously, only time will tell. But the other is a very small issue, and I don't know if it's my eyesight. On the children's play area, it's difficult to read if that's a bus station or a substation, but I presume it's a substation. And there seems to be the kind of inclination to put a fairly ugly sort of utility building in or close to a children's play area. Would there be any way? Obviously, it can't be moved at this stage, but is there any way that can be a condition to kind of, I don't know, disguise it or pretty it up, or I don't know. It just feels like an inappropriate feature in a children's play area. Thank you.
I mean, ultimately, with conditions such as this, I think we've mentioned before to members, if you feel that there needs to be further detail in terms of the boundary treatments for that, then we can do that via condition. That is within the gift of the committee. Ultimately, though, as officers, we're comfortable with the way that the site has been laid out and the position of that substation, but it is ultimately at the gift of the committee if they do think further consideration is needed with that.
Councillor Bird, would you like to take that further, have it conditioned?
Yes, I'm not entirely sure what we would condition, but to condition in some way that it is either relocated or disguised in a way that makes it more... It just feels like it would spoil what is otherwise a very nice design for the children's area.
I mean, it could... No, sorry. I was going to say, could that be included within the landscape condition itself?
Yeah, so we can look at details in terms of the screening or boundary treatments of that. I think relocating is probably a more challenging option because ultimately these will have technical requirements. There'll be a reason why it's located, where it's located, but certainly details in terms of further screening or boundary treatment, we can look at that.
So that could be included in the condition we already have under landscaping.
It would probably need to be a separate condition to that, Chair, because the condition that we have in place at the moment is for compliance with the details provided. So if we want further information, that would have to be a separate condition.
Okay, well, if we could decide, have a little vote on that. It's not part of Councillor Crawford's original proposal. If we would like to vote whether we need to add this extra condition about landscaping the substation, could we have a show of hands on that, please? Councillor Bird, would you like to propose it? And who would like to second that, please? Councillor Bisnousing. So if we put that to the vote, please. Those against? And abstentions? 2 abstentions. So, Councillor Crawford, it's your proposal. You've just abstained. Would you be willing to include that condition in your proposal?
Yeah, if they could put a bit of planting around it, it might enhance it. Thank you.
So if I can just clarify, it will need seconding, so given Councillor Bellamy seconded it last time. So if I can just clarify then that Councillor Crawford has agreed to revise her proposal to that the application be approved, well, delegated to myself to deal with Section 106 and to the conditions as set out in the amended papers, and subject to an additional condition. We're seeking details of a landscaping scheme around the substation itself, and that's been seconded by Councillor David Bellamy.
Just for clarification, is it the substation or the pumping station? I can't see that on there.
It is just there.
Oh, right, yeah.
And the pumps.
Yeah, that's fine then, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Would anybody else like to raise any more points? Councillor Bisnousing?
No, I was going to second that if a second is required.
No. Okay. Well then, I think we could move to a vote. Councillor Crawford has proposed we accept this to grant permission. Councillor David Bellamy has seconded it. So if we could go to the vote, please. All those in favour? Oh, me, sorry.
That's unanimous.
I think that's unanimous, so thank you very much on that one. Thank you. Agenda item 5 is application number S230299. This is for the erection of 67 dwellings on the neighbouring piece of land here at Readings Road. So if we could go to Adam again, please, for his presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So yes, this next application is S230299, and it's for the erection of 67 dwellings with associated vehicular access from Readings Road and Owen Way, with associated public open space and infrastructure, and it's land at Readings Road, Barrowby. And again, the application has been referred to committee as it is a major residential development that requires a Section 106 contribution for financial contributions. So again, in this case, the site is 3 hectares of land between Readings Road and Owen Way to the south-east of Barrowby. And again, it is a single field of arable land that rises from south to north, and it forms the north-eastern parcel of the allocation site. So again, for members' context, We've just considered the southern parcel, which is this field here. Now we're considering the northeastern parcel, which is this field in the top corner here, which abuts onto Readings Road here and the developed platform housing site in this northwestern side. In terms of the scheme itself then, the application is for 67 dwellings with access to be taken via an extension of Readings Road to the north and via extension of Owen Way to the west. And again, as mentioned, you've got this centralised area of open space here within the site that would link into the adjacent Allison Home scheme. So the plans in front of you, if they hopefully come back up, will show, as I say, so what we've just considered is the Allison Homes parcel to the south, the Persimmon Homes parcel to the north here, so you can see how that centralised area of open space there would work between the two allocation sites. And then again, along this eastern boundary, you've got an area here where you've got a surface path that would connect and run around the entirety of the site. In terms of the properties themselves, it would be a mix of 2-storey and 2.5 stories throughout. So just an indication here on the screen in front of you of the various different house types, materials that would be used, different treatments, those front elevations to produce a high quality scheme throughout the development site. And again, a mix of different house types and different arrangements. In terms of the key issues then on the evaluation, again, principle of development, the officer assessment is set out within the report. In this case, the assessment is that it complies with the entirety of those allocation principles and therefore is acceptable in principle. Again, it's been through design pad and through extensive engagement with the urban design officer and the technical consultees. And again, the officer assessment is that it's a high quality design scheme. And then finally, again, in terms of the Section 106 contributions, the late items paper has secured that financial contribution to the cycleway, footway along Low Road to link the site into Dysart Road, and again has provided the year-long bus pass. And then also important to note, condition 19 within the main officer report included a scheme of tactile dropped curbs between the site and the village centre. Following engagement with the County Council Highways Authority, it's now been agreed that that would be secured as a financial contribution as opposed to via planning condition. So, again, as I say, in terms of those public benefits, 67 dwellings, significant public benefit that helps the 5-year housing land supply, 30% affordable housing, again a significant public benefit. That's counterbalanced against that change in the character of the land, but as I say, that's mitigated by the fact that it's a high quality design scheme. So the officer assessment is that it accords with the development plan as a whole, no material indications to indicate that permission should be withheld. And therefore the recommendation to committee is to authorise the Assistant Director to grant planning permission subject to conditions and the heads of terms within your late items paper. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Adam. If we could call forward, please, then Andrew and Ben Purdy on behalf of the applicant. Thank you. Thank you. You have 3 minutes to speak and you will be given a 30-second warning. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, for the opportunity to speak today in support of the scheme. My name is Andrew and I'm the Head of Planning for Persimmon Homes East Midlands, and I also have Ben Purdy, who's the Technical Director at Persimmon Homes, next to me, who will assist in answering any questions you may have on technical matters. The site forms part of an allocated site for residential development within the South Kesteven local plan, for which there was the requirement for the comprehensive master plan, which has been approved. During the process of getting the comprehensive master plan approved, we have worked extensively with the council, the parish council and Allison Homes in producing the plan. This planning application fully accords with the requirements of the comprehensive master plan, with particular attention to the design of the scheme to ensure a comprehensive development which benefits from connectivity whilst also respecting the character of Barrowby. In line with the master plan, the scheme provides for extensive areas of open space with areas of trees, planting and landscaping alongside a centrally located play area. These features will meet amenity needs of residents, aid the assimilation of development into its setting and achieve a biodiversity net gain greater than 10%. Careful consideration has been given to the layout to ensure no overlooking results to existing dwellings to the north. Rear-to-rear separation distances exceed the 21 metres required by the design guide, with rear gardens within the development typically varying between 13 and 15 metres. The development will also be subject to Section 106 contributions towards formal outdoor space, a community hall, healthcare, highway improvements and the travel plan bus pass, as well as providing the policy-compliant 30% affordable housing. All technical consultees have confirmed, subject to conditions, their support for the application, with the Council's Urban Design Officer confirming the scheme performs positively against building for a healthy life. The scheme also accords with national and local policy. For this reason, we believe the application should be approved in line with the Officer's report to committee and subsequent update report. Ben and myself will be more than happy to answer any questions you may have on the scheme. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions to the agent? No? Well, thank you very much indeed. Thank you. So, do we have any questions to the presenting officer, Adam? Councillor Paul Wood?
Madam Chairman, it's a follow-up question, Adam, about soft landscaping. And I know Councillor Johnson asked a question on the last scheme about landscaping. And I have read what you've said, ongoing conditions about soft landscaping, before the end of the first planting season, following the first occupation. They've got development plans for soft landscaping, and also on the protection of it within the period of 5 years. I agree with all of that. I don't have a problem with the scheme, but I'm always a little bit worried about soft landscaping. That how do we insist enforcement, more of an enforcement thing really, to follow it up? Because I've been aware in the past, there have been conditions about landscaping that haven't actually been followed through. And so, you know, we get all these plans showing all the trees and all the landscaping, and the conditions you put in seem pretty good to me. I don't have a problem with them, but are we in a position where we can follow it up and enforce that landscaping happens?
As you say, Councillor Wood, that is ultimately a matter for enforcement. There are situations, though, as you say, where it is reported to us that a landscaping scheme such as this, for whatever reason, has failed. The enforcement team have engaged with developers, etc., and tried to get it rectified. So it is ultimately, as you say, a matter of enforcement. We put the conditions on there on the basis of we're trying to do everything that we can within our power as a local planning authority to try and make sure that those planting schemes do come to fruition, are successful as we all want them to be. It is ultimately, though, then if there is a situation where that hasn't taken, there has been failures, if that's reported to us as a council, we can then look to enforce on that.
Thank you. Have we any more questions to Adam? Councillor Bellamy?
Well, it's just a follow-up question similar to Councillor Wood. There's some money set aside in there as well for monitoring, isn't there, within the legal agreement?
Yes, so the legal agreement includes a monitoring fee which looks at the council's time and expense involved in actually monitoring and enforcing that 106 agreement and anything in terms of those conditions. So yeah, we do look to secure fees to cover off those sort of situations.
Thank you. Does anybody else like to ask a question? No? Thank you, Adam. If we move into debate, who would like to make any comments in debate? Councillor Bellamy?
Well, the way it's been brought together is quite good. I think we've already agreed that. And, you know, this is almost like an extension of what we've already been talking about, isn't it? So, and like I say, I think it's really good, you know, the way the two sites have been brought in together. To be fair, I think we covered most of sort of the topics in the first one, and this, you know, like it is just an extension of the one we've just debated. So I'm quite happy to propose it, to be honest. So.
Thank you. And Councillor Paul Wood?
I agree with what Councillor Bellamy says. It does seem like we've discussed most of it on the first one, and I'm quite happy with it. I'm quite happy to second Councillor Bellamy's proposal.
Thank you. So we have a proposer and a seconder. Have we any more comments in debate? Councillor Pambert?
Hello, thank you. Yes, all good stuff again. I just wanted to bring up the same issue. Is there a substation on the plan? Because it's hard to see on this particular one. I'm just thinking if we condition it in if there's a separate one, then we ought to have comparable condition to ensure that any additional substation receives appropriate treatment as well. Thank you. Is there an indication of where that might be?
So in this case, it's within the eastern part of the site. So if I just bring a plan back up for you, councillors, to draw your attention to. So what we've got is you've got a substation sort of in this northeastern side here, and then a foul pumping station down to this eastern side here. So both, in this occasion, both of them are separate from your main children's play area, which is this centralised area of open space.
So, Adam, confirm not in a children's play area. Yes.
Yeah, that's clear, Councillor.
So, Councillor Bisnassing?
Just one simple thing. I quite like quite a lot of the things here, as been discussed in the previous one as well. Very good. But I would like some clarification on the SB1. Will there be a sort of a communal charging points installed somewhere? Because I can't see it anywhere place allocated for any visitors or anybody like that, as we are promoting carbon free by 2050. Thank you.
Again, Councillor Bisnassing, that's covered by the condition. So it's condition 9 in this case, which requires the details of the electric vehicle charging points.
I read that actually, but I thought that was applicable to the house, individual houses, not for a communal one where visitors can park and also can charge the vehicle, if possible.
I think Emma would like to come in, Adam, on that one. Okay.
Thank you. You're quite correct, Councillor Bisnassing. The policy SB1 relates to sustainable buildings. So it's about creating a sustainable building. Now, we do need to think moving forwards about decarbonisation of the energy grid as well as energy consumption for dwellings. But in terms of the current local plan, whilst we would welcome sort of communal EV charging points as and when they come, they are available to people. We've not got a policy that would require them, so I don't think we can ask in this instance for anything. But there is a condition that will secure details related to how the scheme will meet the requirements of policy SB1.
Okay, thank you. Any other speakers? No? I think Emma again would like to clarify something.
Thank you. I just want to clarify that whilst this has been proposed and seconded in terms of the recommendation, I just want for clarity of councillors and anybody watching here or at home, that is in relation to the updated recommendation that's set out in the late items paper. So if I could just ask for the councillors to confirm that was their proposal.
David, could you just say so definitely? Thank you.
Yes, I'm quite happy with that.
And Councillor Wood, please.
I'm quite happy with that as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So, again, I'd like to say I think it's refreshing that we have got two very good applications here. I believe an awful lot of work's gone on in the background with this master planning and design. And so if we go to the vote, if all those four... Thank you, that's unanimous, and thank you very much. Seeing as we've got through that fairly quickly, I'm going to suggest we do carry on with the agenda and not break at this point. So we're now going to move on to agenda item 6, which is S240413, which is the conversion extension of barns to form 2 dwellings at Chestnuts Farm, Sapperton. And if we could have the case officer, Sarah Hullett, to present, please. Councillor Sarah Trotter.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chairman. I just want to declare that I actually called in this application, but I I remain open-minded and wish to remain on the planning committee, and I'm not prejudged. Thank you.
Yes, I think that's been agreed, Councillor Trotter, that that's perfectly acceptable in this case. Thank you. So we have Case Officer Sarah Hullett. When you're ready, please, to present. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So this is an application for the conversion and extension of barns to form 2 dwellings at Chestnuts Farm in Sapperton. The application is being presented at committee as it has been called in by Councillor Sarah Trotter due to concerns raised by neighbouring properties regarding amenity. The site is located to the south of Village Street in Sapperton and comprises of 2 barn ranges and an open-sided Dutch barn, all of which have been in disuse for a number of years. The site lies to the west of the dwelling Chestnuts Farm, with neighbouring properties to the north and open fields to the south. So on the site layout plan, you can see that the open Dutch barn that's there existing would be removed as part of the development. The barn ranges would then be converted into 2 dwellings, one known as Hazel Barn and one as Rose Barn. A detached garage is proposed to the northwest of the barn titled Hazel Barn. And then there's also a small extension proposed to the south of the barn, to the northeast of the site, which is Rose Barn. I just popped in some plans there so you can see there's not actually a lot of changes to the external elevations of the barns. And the proposed garage has no windows to either elevation, which would be the elevations that would be closest to any neighbouring properties. So the main concern raised by neighbouring properties is that of amenity. As set out within the report, it is considered that there is sufficient separation distances between the properties, and there are no neighbouring windows close to those properties. There are also a number of conditions proposed which would limit any potential impact on neighbouring properties. As such, it's the officer's assessment that there would be no adverse impact on neighbouring properties, and there are no other material considerations that indicate that planning permission should be withheld. It is the officer recommendation that the application be approved subject to conditions. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. So if we could call forward Mike Sibthorpe, please, who's the agent for the applicant. Thank you very much. You have 3 minutes to speak and you'll be given a 30-second warning. Thank you.
Committee, good afternoon. My name is Mike Sibthorpe and I represent the applicant. The proposals in this case comprise a measured and proportionate scheme of conversion of these traditional farm buildings in Sapperton. The buildings have been in use for some time and the overall farmyard site detracts from the character and appearance of the site and the village. The buildings comprise high-quality traditional stone buildings, finished in estate style, and are considered worthy of conversion and reuse. Indeed, restoration of the buildings and the removal of the unsightly Dutch barn will actually enhance this particular part of the village. The proposals have been carefully evolved to ensure that the conversions and the new build elements do not impact on neighbouring properties. By design, the buildings will not have any windows facing onto or overlooking neighbouring properties, and suggested condition 17 will ensure that in future no additional windows may be added that might result in overlooking. A construction management plan, condition 6, will ensure no undue disturbance to neighbours during the construction phase. And the officer report at paragraph 715 acknowledges that the residential use of the site will be more compatible than the previous unrestricted agricultural use of the site. There will be no encroachment onto the green at the western end of the site. There is already a drive and access gate that run across the northern end of the space. The line of this track will not change as a result of these proposals. There has always been an access across this space serving the farmyard area. traffic using this route for one of the dwellings will be no greater than if the site were in use as a farmyard. The report acknowledges that the proposals accord with relevant local plan policies, in particular policy SP5 relating to the conversion of traditional buildings in the countryside. Indeed, we consider the proposals overall will enhance and uplift the quality of this large, centrally located site within the village. The applicant is happy with the recommended conditions, and we hope that the committee will feel minded to support this application. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions to Mike Sibthorpe, please? Councillor Portwood.
Thank you. Hi, Mike. Impact on neighbourhood. You've talked about the windows. Do you think there's any impact on the neighbourhood amenities at all? I know you mentioned the windows. Do you think what impact do you think it does have on neighbourhoods?
I don't think there's any impact on neighbours. I mean, it's mainly the conversion of existing buildings, so the buildings are already there, so there's not really overbearing effects. The only new build element of any size is the garage, and that's, separated from the adjoining properties. I think I checked the measurements. It's 11 metres from one property, 8.5 from the other, and there's quite a significant line of trees between the properties, I think, and the new building. So I think there's a fairly significant amount of screening there already. So I don't think there'll be any negative impact on adjoining properties. And in fact, if you saw the site today in its disused state, I think bringing the site back into reuse and residential use will actually be positive rather than negative in terms of the neighbours.
Thank you. Councillor Sarah Trotter.
Thank you, Sibthorpe. I think on the site visit there was a bit of concern where the existing metal barn is, where there's going to be a garage, isn't there, with an office above. I think it was discussed that maybe for the planning officer, but I think the concern is that it wants to be kept as a garage with office above. Airbnb was bandied about. As I say, that's probably one for Sarah. But, is there any suggestion that going forward that would be changed?
It's certainly not the intention. I mean, I think, with this trend of a lot of people working from home now, home offices are something that people find quite desirable when looking at properties. I think the planning permission would not allow it to be used for an Airbnb. That would need a separate planning permission. I think it could be, the use of that home office could be conditioned if you feel it was necessary, and we wouldn't object to that. But I don't think it's necessary.
Yes, thank you, Sibthorpe. It's something that I would be quite keen for a condition to be placed. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any more questions, Councillor Crawford?
It's not a question, but I would like to second what Councillor Trotter said there. I would be happier if that garage had a condition on it to say that it can only stay as a garage come office, that it can't be turned into a separate annex.
Yes, well, we can deal with that later. I think Mr Sibthorpe has said there wouldn't be any objection to that as a condition, if I heard you right. Can I just say that where the open barn is at the moment is not the siting of the garage. I think the garage is further over into a corner, and where that barn is will be part of the access route to that bigger barn. Any other questions, please, Agent? No, thank you very much indeed. Thank you. So if we've got questions now for the case officer, Sarah.
Yeah, so just to follow up on the point by Councillor Trotter, that condition in terms of restriction of the use, we're more than happy to include that as a condition.
Well, thank you for that, Adam. I think when we get to if somebody is proposing approval, we can include, if they would include that into that proposal. Any other questions for Sarah? Councillor Bird.
Thank you, Chairman. I think just to clarify, I went and had a look at the site, and it clearly is not in use at the moment. So the plans do look like they're going to be actually an improvement in the village. So that's really quite encouraging. But there's no new build other than a small extension, and the access for both properties already exist, and the views are all looking away from any properties. So I'm just wanting to clarify that is the case. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Yep, that is the case. So all new windows are proposed to be looking towards the open countryside. The accesses are existing, and the only elements of new build are the proposed garage and the extension to the barn at the northeast of the site.
Thank you, Councillor Crawford.
The red line goes slightly into an agricultural or pasture. Does that need to change conditions of use for that small area?
I think we did see that, didn't we, on the site visit? So, Sarah, Adam, can you answer that?
Yep, thank you. So that would be covered by the current application that we're considering now.
Any other questions for the case officer? No? Thank you. So if we could move into debate on this. The people who did go to the site visit, it's a beautiful site, and I think we did look into the objections from the surrounding residents very carefully. Just like to make that point that we looked very carefully at that. So if somebody would like to start the debate or proposal, so Councillor.
Thank you. Having gone onto the site and seen that this site obviously hasn't been used for years, those barns are really quite stunning and beautiful, and I would hate to see them dilapidated and just fall down, and I think turning them into some beautiful homes would be a positive outlook for the village, and bring more people into the village, which you have to grow small villages, otherwise they tend to die. So that's all I've got to say on that bit. Thank you.
Can I just make the point, this is an application for conversion under policy SP5, not new builds?
No,
just
sorry, yeah.
To clarify that.
Yes, convert them, isn't it? It's to restore them, convert them in and bring them back to life for the benefit of others.
Councillor Trotter?
Yeah, like you're aware, Madam Chairman, it's on my ward, and it is a lovely community. I don't think it's anywhere near dying, but I do welcome that the conversion is going to be in keeping. And I know, I represent the residents, and there was a concern, because in these very small, and it's a hamlet, there's always concern about development. So I, again, refresh talking to the Mr. Sibthorpe that he does not have a problem that there's going to be any more change with what's in front of us. So I do feel fairly satisfied, and I hope the neighbouring properties do, and I think it was right to be heard here, and for the site visit, which was welcomed, and I did feel somewhat happy that it's like the village that's already there, and there's not these huge changes which we don't want in the rural little villages, really. Thank you.
I do concur with what you say, having a rural ward similar to yours as well, that it's very sensitive to change. But this is very beautiful barns, as we've said, and a conversion. There's no new build except for the garage. So, yes, thank you for that. And I just would like it to be known that we did look very carefully at the site visit with the neighbours' considerations. Yeah. Councillor Paul Fellows.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to propose that we accept the proposal from the officer with the condition that Councillor Trotter put on it.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder for that? Councillor Bellamy?
Just going to add something to debate first.
Okay, if you'd like.
Well, it's more for information, actually. When we was on the site visit, I think from the plans, the the biggest concern, which I think it's the home called the Barns, and it's sort of the nearest property to the proposed barn conversions. And the garage is going into that corner, but just to repeat, just to sort of emphasise what Mr Sidthorpe said, that it is virtually, that the garage will be virtually invisible from any overlooking windows in the barns, purely because of the amount of sort of well-established trees and hedges that are in that part of the site. So I'm quite happy to second if somebody hadn't already done it, the proposer. Yeah, like I say, I agree with all the previous speakers. It'll be an improvement. It's saving the barns from becoming derelict, and it'll certainly enhance the village and not detract from it.
Yes, thank you for that, Councillor Bellamy. And you're happy to include that condition as well? Emma would like to say something.
Thank you. If I can just clarify that the condition that was being suggested, and then clarify that this is what you're proposing, Councillor Fellows, and seconding Councillor Bellamy, it's a condition to restrict the use of the garage and the Home Office so that it remains, in planning speak, incidental to the enjoyment of the dwelling house and is not independently let or used as a separate dwelling or Airbnb let. Is that I'm just looking for confirmation that that's the understanding. Thank you.
Well, it's certainly my understanding, and I'm hoping nobody is going to contradict that. So if we can move to the vote to approve this application, if we can have all those in favour, please. That's unanimous. Thank you very much. So I'm going to suggest we still carry on. We've just got one application left. If we could move forward with that then, please. So that's agenda item 7, S24/0606. This is maintenance and repair works to the clock lantern, pitched roof, stone parapet copings and bracketed stone cornice on the Guildhall Arts Centre.
Thank you.
So if we could move to the case officer's presentation, I believe that's Ariana Bushman, who's one of our conservation officers. If you'd like to present for us, thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair, and hello, councillors. As mentioned, this is an application for the repair works to the clock lantern, the pitched roof, and the stone parapets, and of the Guildhall Arts Centre at St Peter's Hill, Grantham. This application is presented to the committee as it is a SKDC application. The application site comprises a Grade 2 listed building that currently operates as a Guildhall Arts Centre, and the site is located within the Grantham Town Centre at St Peter's Hill, and this also falls within the Civic Centre character area of the Grantham Conservation Area. It is proposed to undertake a series of repairs and refurbishment of several features, including stone repairs, timber repairs to the various areas that have been identified to be substantially damaged at the moment, and some general roof repairs, as well as repainting of the clock face and the exterior of the parapets and clock tower. The key issues were the potential effect of the proposal on the character and appearance of the conservation area, as well as any potential impacts upon the building itself, its setting, any features and special architectural and historical interest that the building has. It's believed that the works actually will be a positive impact upon the significance of the building, as well as having a positive impact upon the conservation area. The assessment is set out in the main committee report, and is considered that the assessment is in accordance with the Planning Listed Building Conservation Act 1990 and the NPPF Chapter 16, as well as the South Kesteven Local Plan EN6. The works would be considered to be an enhancement to the building as well as the Grantham Conservation Area, and it is recommended to grant consent for this application subject to some conditions.
Thank you very much. We have no speakers on this item, so if we'd like to move straight away to any questions to the case officer, please. No? No? Well, thank you. So if we move straight into any debate, so Councillor David Bellamy.
When you're on the outside walking round St Peter's Hill, you don't realise those pictures were quite graphic actually. And like I say, you just take it for granted, you look up, you look at the clock, but I didn't realise actually how much deterioration there was round the clock tower. Like I say, and the pictures are very graphic, and it's obvious that this work does need doing.
Councillor Trotter?
Just for clarification, do we get the planning permission and then look into the cost and obviously because it's specialist work, or is that already has that already been done prior?
Is that a material consideration? I'm not sure that's a material consideration, Councillor Trotter.
Do you want me to say something? So, it's not material to the application. Obviously, in this instance, we're both applicant and we're also local planning authority, so we have to put different hats on. This is just given that list, assuming we're minded to grant, it would give that list of building consent, so it would give that stage of the permission. Obviously, as landowner and responsible owner of the building, separately, the council will need to make those various decisions over costs and everything else.
It would appear it's absolutely necessary, and anything that makes Grantham continue to be more vibrant, I'm there, and I'm happy to propose if I'm in the right position to do so yet.
Thank you. Councillor Crawford?
Thank you. Coming down past the barracks, you look across Grantham and you see the clock tower. It's an iconic view. And it's an iconic building, you know, it is the centre of Grantham and it needs to be preserved, looked after and loved. And I would concur and second with Councillor Trotter that the works obviously need to be carried out and should be. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Harrison?
Thank you very much, Chair. It's already been said what I was going to say very ably there. Totally agree. It's one of the jewels in the crown of Grantham. And it needs to be treated as such. And we've all seen what's happened to buildings that we've let go on too far, and then it costs either too much or we end up getting rid of them.
Yes, thank you. Councillor Bisnell-Singh?
Just a quick technical question, Madam Chairman. Following from what the Assistant Director said, are we having two applications here, one for the consent and one for the works to be carried out?
No, absolutely not. All the planning of committee is being asked to do is to grant list of building consent or not, and any decisions that this council may wish to take as landowner will be dealt with entirely separate, using whatever delegations are in place, either to officers or through the appropriate committee. And it's in that way it is not any different to some of the other applications that we've had around Larch Close, the depot, and some of those other schemes where we are just simply looking at the planning question. In this case, should list of building consent be granted or not?
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to speak? So I'm going to move to the vote. We have a proposer and a seconder to grant permission. Can we go for, please? That's unanimous. Thank you very much. So I don't think there's any other business that we need to move on to today. So I'm going to close this meeting in record time at 2:30 in the afternoon. Thank you.